Hi, my name is Bubba Herrick. I am 24 years old from Tampa, Florida. The reason I am recording this from my car is because I am on the road right now traveling the country trying to finish up the writing of my first book called Becoming Ready to Die. I've moved into my car because I was kind of half in and half out. It was almost like a test of my commitment to see how bad I really wanted it, or at least that's how I interpreted it. So I currently live in my vehicle, and that is where I am recording from, is my new home. So in 2019, I was a Division I baseball player. I played baseball my entire life. It was all I ever dreamed about doing. It was all I ever did. It was what I dedicated my life to. And I was awarded a Division I scholarship, which is the highest level of amateur baseball that you can play in the United States. My scholarship was to Jacksonville University, a small Division I school in Jacksonville, Florida. And my freshman year, right when I got on campus, essentially, I tore up my elbow and I got injured. That led me into a hospital to get surgery on it. The surgery is often referred to in the baseball world as Tommy John surgery. So the next day heading into my surgery, I was in this pre-operation room in my hospital gown, hooked up to an IV with that, that machine that has your heart beat on it in the red line. I don't know what that's called. But anyways, I'm in this room and my surgeon comes in and he says, "All right, you ready for surgery?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And he says, "Okay, here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna put the anesthesia in your IV. That way you don't feel a thing. By the time we get from this pre-operation room to that operating room, which was about 10 to 15 feet, he said, you're gonna be under anesthesia, you're not gonna feel a thing during surgery, and we're gonna get you out of here back to Tampa as fast as we can." The doctor begins to wheel me into the operating room, and I was still fully conscious. I didn't feel the anesthesia hit me, and I just kind of closed my eyes to try and doze off because I figured maybe they've done this thousands of times by now. Maybe it's just taking a little bit longer to hit me. So the doctors were about to get set to cut me and perform my surgery, and I was still fully awake, but I just closed my eyes like this, and I was waiting to see if it hit me, and it never did. So as they're inching closer to my elbow with their tool that they cut into me with, I felt them suddenly start to pull back, and I thought to myself, wow, okay, good. Like they know I'm not under the anesthesia. Maybe they're gonna give me some more because they know it's not working. But then suddenly I started to hear this panic in their voices, and they started screaming at each other like, "Hurry, we gotta save this kid, we're losing him." All of a sudden I was watching the entire scene from above. It was almost as if there were a glass panel in between where I was up here and where I was down here. And I was just looking at my body on the operating table, and I saw it turn like a bruise-like purple, and then it transferred from the purple to this lifeless blue, and then it transferred into this corpse-like white, and then I watched that heart machine go from beep, beep, beep to beep, and I watched my own flatline from above. After I saw my flatline, I was immediately seamlessly shuttled into this review of my life, and I believe it's called a life review, but I was shown this in-depth view of my life as if it were a movie from a third-person perspective in minute detail, every single detail of my life from start to finish. I was shown moments of my life that I'd completely forgot about, some of them willingly. I was shown parts of my life that I wasn't proud of. I was shown parts of my life where I did wrong. And in my life review, I was shown core memories of mine, things that had stuck with me throughout the duration of my life. And the first one I was shown that I can remember was this moment where I was 4 years old, my dad was spanking my brother and I for an altercation that my brother and I got into. We got into trouble a lot, but my dad was spanking us with a belt, and I remember the rest of my life feeling resentful that my dad was beating us with a belt, and that's how he was expressing discipline. And for a long time, I hated my dad for the way he punished us. But when I was watching this in my life review, I was able to feel his reasoning. I'd never looked at these situations from his perspective before, and although I may or may not have agreed with what he was doing, I understood in this moment why he was doing it, and I never had before. In this moment I could feel what he was feeling, and he was just doing the best that he could to discipline my brother and I and make us the best men that we could be in his eyes. And for a long time, my whole life really, I never thought that way about it. But now in my life review, I could finally forgive my dad, and I had love and compassion for him, and I almost wanted to thank him for doing what he thought was best from a good place with good intention. And then the next moment that happened was I was shuttled into another moment where I saw my mom crying on the third floor of our apartment complex. We lived in these low-income housing apartments, and my mom was crying, and my mom struggled with alcoholism because our dad made a lot of mistakes, and he ended up cheating on my mom, leaving our family behind in a foreclosing house. And it was a really tough time for our family because my mom was a single mom. She was a stay-at-home mom, and when my dad left, she had to support our family. So it was really challenging for her to lose her spouse and have to step up as a single mom to raise two boys. I have a brother. So the moment that I was seeing in my life review was her crying about this with a bottle of Jaeger in her hand. And I remember feeling so angry with her in that moment when it happened at the time, because I never understood why she was drinking so much. And when I saw this in my life review, similar to my dad, when I saw that moment, I was able to find compassion for her and empathy, and almost want to just tell her thank you for doing her absolute best, because I wasn't ever able to recognize the pain that might have caused her to drink so much. And she's fine now, like everybody's fine now. But in this life review, I was able to feel that pain of hers, and it caused me to want to get a second chance to tell her thank you, and to tell my dad thank you, and be there for my family in a way that I never had before. And then the last moment that flashed in my life review was this core memory of mine that was just this beautiful basketball game where I played with my stepdad. After my parents got divorced, my mom met this beautiful man named Mike, and he was just an incredible soul, a gentle man, much different from my dad. And it was cool to have both of them in my life at the same time, because my dad was hard and disciplinary, and Mike was just a gentle, kind of nurturing father figure. So I was 12 years old, and Mike and I played this beautiful basketball game at his sister's house. And there was just this love exchange between him and I, where I had never experienced that before. And in my life review, I was able to feel that again. And tragically, 2 years before this experience that I'm describing, where I went in for surgery and died on the operating table, Mike passed away from a heart attack. And it was a tragic blow to our family. So after my life review ended, I couldn't help but feel I couldn't help but feel angry with myself and disgusted and pissed off, because I never did tell my family thank you while I had the chance. And I never did forgive them or make amends. And I left a lot of my potential on the table as well. So when I was done watching my life review, I was angry that was it. It felt like all of my pain that I had gone through as a kid was completely wasted, and that I just wasted my life. I died full of bitterness, and in my last conscious moment, I was afraid to die. I wasn't ready to die. I can't describe that feeling in words. There are no words to describe what that felt like, but the closest words I can think of are hopeless and regretful and bitter. Just this bitterness. And after a while of feeling afraid to die and regretful and just hopeless, I was then transitioned into this beautiful, beautiful place where everything was crystally and blue, and it was almost as if I was perceiving the outside world from the perspective of the inside of the purest diamond in the universe. It was just magnificent, indescribable by words. And there were refracted combinations of light, and each refracted combination of light formed one universal color. And it was just beauty that is just indescribable. And there was no time in this place. Time and I were the same thing, and everything was one in this place. In this place, I was everything, and everything was me. And since there was no concept of time, it felt like I was in this place for an eternity. The voice in my head was completely gone, and I was processing information at a speed that I can't even comprehend now. I had complete and utter awareness. Everything, I just knew everything. I don't know how to describe it. I just knew everything. From there, a strange figure appeared, and without words or transition, he immediately passed me a basketball. And it was Mike, my stepdad, who I had just saw in my life review. And he passed me a basketball, and we recreate the same moment that I just watched in my life review, the core memory. There was no verbal communication. Everything was telepathic. He and I communicated without words. We just knew what the other was trying to communicate and get across. After the recreation of the basketball game, Mike kind of slowly stepped back and got a little bit serious. His tone changed. Telepathically, he communicated to me that he was sent to offer me something. He assured me that there was no right or wrong answer in what he was about to ask me, but it seemed like there was. I don't know how to describe that, but it seemed like there was only one right answer to what he was about to offer me. He then said telepathically to me, I know what you were feeling when your life review was over. I know how badly you just wanted to go back and get a second chance. Well, I've been sent here to offer you a second chance. You can stay here with me in this beautiful, perfect realm for the rest of eternity. And I promise you that one day our family's going to return here and everybody's going to be okay. Or you can have that second chance that you wanted. But there's a catch. If you choose to go back, then you have a responsibility to live out your great purpose. He referred to it as great purpose. So Mike told me that I had to endure the process of finding my great purpose and then living it out. He said to always follow my heart and that my heart would never guide me in the wrong direction. Even though I had no idea what my purpose was at that time, I trusted him. I made the decision to come back to this life. And then Mike slowly backed away and disappeared. And then I was face to face with myself again on the operating table, where I watched the doctor shoot me with the shot that saved my life. And I woke up on the operating table and I was punching the doctors because I was fighting with myself about the decision I had made. I didn't want to leave that other place. It's important to say that in that other place, I wasn't dead. I was alive. In fact, I was more alive than I had ever been in my life. And I wish I could describe it. I wish that words did the experience justice, but they don't. That place, I was so alive. It was more real than anything I'd ever experienced here. And I've concluded that that's my real home. I truly believe that that is my real home. And I believe that one day I will return home. But I've also questioned at times and fought with myself immensely about my decision to return to this life because of how challenging the return has been and how confusing it's been for me because I've completely lost myself. You know, I've had to unlearn who I was for the first 19 years of my life and relearn a new version of myself. So at times it's been so hard that I've wanted to go back to that place because that place just made more sense. But now I realize that I'm here for a reason and I have found the purpose that Mike was referring to. And in my book, Becoming Ready to Die, I outline what that is. And basically, in every single moment of my life, I want to make sure that I'm ready to die because what looking back on your life in your last moments is like, knowing you didn't give your best and not being able to do anything about it. Saying that that was the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life doesn't do it justice. I have this theory that there is only one moment in our lives that matters more than the others, and that is our last. But the thing is that none of us know when our last moment is, so it's very important to treat every single moment like it is our last. And I didn't do that the first time around. And I suffered that consequence of having the last moment of my life be the worst. So in my book, I outline the 12-step process that I've found that has helped me prepare for death, almost in the same way that an athlete would prepare for a game, or an athlete would prepare to face an opponent. When I came back, I had no idea how to deal with any of this, how to make peace with all of the change. So I only knew how to be a baseball player. I only knew how to prepare to face other teams. So I thought to myself, well, what if I could just frame death as an opponent? How would I prepare? And I found that the preparation process of facing an opponent in a game like baseball and facing the ultimate opponent, which is death, it's the same process. That's what I've been given a second chance to explain through my book, Becoming Ready to Die, and my speaking and everything else that I have going on in my life. Just being an example of what I believe being ready to die looks like. I believe the purpose I was sent back to live out is to help other people not feel what I felt in those last moments of my life. If there was one takeaway that has really struck me more than anything else in this whole experience, it's you just never know when your last moment's going to be. And I say that because I entered that surgery thinking nothing about death. I was prepared to get operated on, then sent back home, then back on the baseball field. And 15 minutes into my surgical procedure, I was dead, and there was nothing I could do about it. I had no control over the situation whatsoever. And it just really put it into my perspective that, people say, oh, any moment could be our last, but really, that's the truth. And it's one thing to say that, but it's another thing to live with that in the back of your mind. So for me, if I could give any advice to anybody, it would be live every moment like it's your last, because the truth is, it could be.